If you're not writing character sketches for your stories, I strongly recommend it. It is one of the best things you can do to improve your writing. When I first started writing character sketches, every time I sat down, I would sit down to write one character sketch of one character, and it always was not as much fun to me. I was like reluctant to do it, and eventually I realized, okay, I can write character sketches, but that doesn't mean I have to sit down to write one character sketch. What I find works with creativity is very similar to the way neuroscience describes the way we develop memories. So here we are way back in 2013, and at this time neuroscience describes that what we do throughout the day is we collect memories of everything that happens, the taste of the food we ate, the color of the shirt the individual across the street was wearing, and very possibly there are a lot of memories we have that we don't even know we have. We collect these memories without actually getting access to them. And again, current theory stipulates that a huge role of dreaming is to prune all those memories, to go back through all this collected information and make associations and discard unnecessary information. That this is a huge part of the way we develop the new structure of our brain to have these new memories that we can access from then on. So it is this pruning action that is a huge part of the brain changing and acquiring memories. Pruning is cutting back, cutting away. What has happened with me when I have sat down to write one character sketch is that most of what I'm writing is mediocre. I'm not that happy with it. It's, you know, I don't feel like I'm getting at my best ideas. But what I find works is, okay, let's say I'm working on a short story that has 3 characters. Now, at the beginning of each writing session, if I think of one new thing about each of those 3 characters, so I have a document for each character, and I just think of one new thing, and I do that at the beginning of each writing session, I begin to amass a lot of information about each one of those characters, and it has more of an improvisation feel to it, and I feel like I'm coming up with better ideas that way. It has been my experience that if I set myself an improvisational creative task, developing one single character, usually the best ideas surface first, and after I put those down, then I'm sort of like, find myself swimming in mediocrity. Then it's like, okay, what else about this character do I need to write down? And now there's no wrong or right about being creative, and there's no best way. I hope if you get one thing from this video, it's that you have a lot of opportunity to change the way you go about writing and being creative. So what happens is, one day I'm going to go to write one new thing about each of the 3 characters, and let's say that character 2, let's say that the antagonist, the evil one, I think of one thing and then the floodgates open and I write down 10 things that day, and then I think of, but for the other 2 characters I might come up with 1 or 2 things for each of them. The rule is that I have to write down one new thing, but if all of a sudden I do find myself channeling one of the characters, you know, that place all of us fiction writers really hope for, is where these characters feel so real to us. They feel like people that we've actually met. Put yourself in a situation where if you think of one new thing, your subconscious is going to offer up what its ideas. And if it has a lot, it'll offer up a lot, but it'll offer up the best ones. And please remember, this is so important. Write down even the half-good ideas. Write down ideas that you know that there's something about it that isn't working. Write them down anyway, because there is something about those ideas that is working, and there is something about those ideas that if you write them down, will have a chance to develop into ideas that are working. And this goes back to how creativity is very much like the way that we form new memories. We collect way more information than we could ever practically use. And then when we sleep at night, we prune. We shape them into the information that we'll need the next day, and we'll process. And pruning is about deleting, cutting away, editing out, erasing. But we can't do that unless we collect. And if you're writing a list of character traits, if you only after you write all of these ideas and hopeful ideas and possible ideas and half-baked ideas, only then can we go back and edit. If we try editing before that, way too soon to start editing. First, they have to get down on the page, typed in the document, before we can effectively prune. So remember, for fiction writing, if you're having fun, you're doing a better job. The less fun you're having, the less effective you're doing your job as a fiction writer. And this is just what fits me. And I'm not saying copy me. I'm saying, this will give you some ideas about how you can try different ways of performing a task that is the most fun to you. It's the most fun to me. If I'm working on a chapter, for the characters involved in that chapter, if I think of one new thing for each of those characters, to me it seems, okay, I'm improvising. It's fun to do, it goes quickly, it gives me a chance to review what each character is all about without feeling like I have to, okay, now I have to go back to that character sketch and read over it. It keeps in my mind who these characters are, and gives me a chance to try thinking of them in different ways. One thing I noticed is good for this is that this gives you the ability to contrast the characters. If you're working on all of the characters around the same time, you can make, if you're going to make one character short-tempered, great opportunity. One thing that can really play off the over-passive other character. So you can create character contrast that way. It's also helpful to sometimes decide what kinds of character traits we're going to make up for each of those characters in one given session. So on one day, you might think of one new thing that has to do with their family upbringing, or one new thing that has to do with how they make a living, or one new thing about what are their main life goals, and think of that new thing for each of those characters. Now, one thing I noticed is that when I was sitting down to write more or less a complete character sketch of one character in one sitting, let's say that I went ahead and really tried to do a great job at it and spent an hour and a half doing that. To me, it wasn't that satisfying. But if I try to come up with if I spend 3 minutes coming up with one new thing for each of the characters I'm going to be writing about that day, that's only 3 minutes for one session. But over the period of time that I'm working on that story, that's a lot longer than an hour and a half, and yet it's better quality work. usually I come up with better ideas because my mind's had a chance to if you go to one creative task refreshed each day, you're going to be more effective. You're going to come up with better ideas and have new insight and have new angles, and your subconscious is going to have better quality stuff to feed your project in for each time that you go to that task than if you try to do all of it in an hour and a half. Okay, I'll finish off this tutorial with let's really get into pruning. So the whole time that we're character sketching in this way, we are not editing, we are not going back and making any changes. We come up with a new idea for each character each day and kind of let it become part of the list. Don't go back and read the list, and it's subconsciously where we have in mind where our characters become more real to us and more realized, and subconsciously the best ideas about that character are the ones that we're working with when we're writing the story. But a few months into it, if you go back and prune, then you're an effective editor. Then you can see, as if for the first time, all of this information and how it really works with all the other information in the list, and make effective changes and make effective associations and delete and cut out and condense it and go back and bring it to a really clear, strong picture of who that character is all about. If you're really developing the absolute funnest way for you to write fiction, it will most likely look very different than anybody else's approach, and it'll also change over time, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you're finding better ways of working creatively, but that you continue to change it just for the sake of change, because creativity loves change. If you're not having a huge amount of fun doing it, it's probably a good idea to see if there's a different approach you can try. Okay, you see this eraser here? Now, in our universe, this eraser is fairly harmless. But if for some really bizarre reason this eraser ended up in another universe that it never belonged to, it was never part of the creation of that universe, and suddenly this eraser is like millions of times more dangerous than plutonium. It is like its relationship to all the matter of that other universe is astronomically dangerous and powerful. What would that circumstance be like? If you're interested in this kind of idea, please check out my fiction at solomation.com. I appreciate you watching my writing tutorials. I hope you get valuable information from them. I hope your writing goes great. And please remember to hit the like button, leave a comment, and subscribe. If you want to be one of my super viewers, write down solomation.com somewhere where it can be seen on a notebook, on your laptop, use a Sharpie. I hope your writing goes great, and have a good day.